Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
Minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Tuesday morning. Bob Kennedy is in the studio. This program is called Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty with Bob Kennedy, and it's an appropriate name because that's who he represents, and he's on the air to answer your questions about real estate. Maybe you're thinking about buying for yourself, buying for a family member. That's a very nice gift, wouldn't it? Maybe as an investment, and some of those things will come up today as well. The phone number to ask questions during the show is 622-9622, and we encourage your calls, and in fact we encourage them as early in the show as possible in case the answer might happen to be lengthy. Good morning, Bob. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
And your Thanksgiving, how was that?
Thanksgiving was great. It was actually pretty quiet, but we had a lot of fun.
That's what you look for. I think when you go to buy a home, I think you imagine yourself, what will this house look like on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, you know?
Yeah.
Don't you do that in your mind's eye?
Actually, the people that we spent Thanksgiving with, they started off as a customer. We were in the house that I had sold them a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That cool. Do you know, one of the things people are doing this time of year is fretting about money. Right?
Yes.
They say, oh, no, we got money problems. So this year we're going to invest. And I know that this is something you can answer really well about an investment home. Tell me who let me ask you the opposite. Who's a bad person to invest in a home as a real estate investment?
Well, I think, what are you looking for? The bottom line is, if you're going to be a real estate investor,
right,
you're going into a business, and you have to approach it as a business, and you have to understand the upside and the downside to it. But if you're going to invest in a home, as opposed to just as a personal investment, if you're doing it for a business venture, you have to understand the number one rule. And, Berkshire Hathaway is owned by Warren Buffett, and his number one rule of investing is never lose money.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's an easy one.
It's easier said than done.
Right.
So you have to understand that you're going to put money at risk, and you're entitled to a return on that investment because of the risk.
So what's the smart thing to do? Buy a house as an investment to be rented out, or buy a house as an investment to maybe fix up and flip?
You can do both. For if someone wants to get into a business where they're going to resell the house, pretty good suggestion would be that you understand the trades, you know how to do some of the work, or you know a lot of people in the trades, and you can get competitive work done, because the margins end up being pretty slim. So if you have cost overruns or there's unforeseen problems, that's going to affect your bottom line.
But what's the realistic view of this? Okay, one of the things we've learned from you in the times that you've done the show is that the neighborhood plays an important role in deciding the value of a house. So if you fix up a house to make it worth more than you paid for it and therefore make a profit, can you make it that much better than the rest of the neighborhood, or will you be shooting yourself in the foot?
Again, it comes down to, it's a business matter. How much do you expect to make? Most people have ideas that they're going to, quadruple their money on each deal that they do, and that's not really realistic. So if you want to sell the house, you have to understand the parameters of the sales within the market. You can't over-improve a house, and you can't under-improve the house. You have to make it competitive with everything else that's going on. If you're going to fix up a house and you have $90 a square foot in it, and the neighborhood that you're in is selling at $75, you got a problem. You violated rule number one.
So my first question sounds like a catch-22 answer. My first question being, who is the worst candidate to buy a house as an investment? It sounds like the answer is the unexperienced person. And the catch-22 is, how do you get experience? I mean, do you team up with somebody who is experienced?
A lot of investors work as partners. A lot of people are not just, one guy might have the money, one guy has the expertise
Right.
to get the work done. A lot of, we're kind of back to where things were, pre-run-up, pre-crash, all that stuff. And people are looking at real estate again as a proper investment. But you have to, be careful in what you're looking for. There's the old adage is, buy a single family residential home in a good neighborhood, you'll almost never lose money. That's the kind of that's a great thing to look at. Is it a neighborhood that you feel values are going to be better down the road? Some people, they'll buy an older home in an area of other rental homes, and they're just looking for a return on the investment. They're not going to make major improvements. So those are more savvy people. Those are people that they're not dealing with, a lot of times you're going to have people that aren't going to last in the house all that long. They're kind of stopping in, trying to find a job. They don't make it. They go on to the next thing.
How about real estate in gated communities? Do the gated communities themselves sell the homes that are in there, or do they use real estate people such as yourself that don't live in a gated community?
In Marion County and in the villages, everybody pretty much sells everywhere. No one has a monopoly. Some companies may have on-site people, but most of those people co-broke also. A lot of those communities have restrictions on how many units can be rented or how long somebody's allowed to rent the house for. So you want to understand all that if you're going to do it from an investment standpoint.
The phone number is 622-9622. Maybe you've been thinking about buying a house as an investment and you have a question for Bob. This would be a great time to call, or maybe it's just simply thinking about moving, hopefully staying in our community. So do you have this happen to you, Bob? Do you have somebody who would be like me, has no clue what to do, but I've watched these late night infomercials about flipping houses, and I don't really want to buy all those CDs. I'm just going to go to you, and I'm going to say, I have an inheritance, and I want to invest it in a house. Would you guide me so that I would make an investment? Was that part of what you would do for me?
Sure. We also have property management so that you're not going to be responsible for finding the tenant to make sure they pay the rent on time. You're not going to have to do background checks when somebody's getting ready to rent the house. And what we would do is we would sit down and say, hey, based on the money you're looking to invest, what are your expectations of returns? What do you need to set aside for deferred maintenance that may come up whenever a house is vacated? There's going to be work that needs to be done. So yeah, we have a lot of investors that we do business with and a lot of properties that we handle for them.
And is the mortgage the same as if you bought a house for yourself?
The mortgage is going to be a little bit different. They don't have the programs. You're going to have to go pretty much with conventional financing on an investment property. A bank's going to want to see more of a down payment, in most cases at least 20%, and the interest rates might be a little bit higher, but they're still really, really affordable. Okay. But it is different.
What if a person has a home business, it's not retail, but they're an accountant to do taxes, something like that? When they buy a house, do they have to let you know that they want to use part of that house for their business?
They don't. They should, because they want to make sure they don't get into a place where you're not allowed to do that.
Oh, okay.
There's some places have restrictions on home-based businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what's interesting? Before we get to the break, we've got less than a minute before the break, and if you want to call in, please do not worry about interrupting us. We want that. The number is 622-9622. But Rob and I have been doing this show for 12 years. So with that 15-year mortgage you were just telling me about, let's say I had bought a house 3 years, at the beginning of this job, let's say, I would be almost paid for it already. You don't think of 15 years as a snap of the fingers, but it really goes by quick.
The 15-year is a great option because you're paying 15 years less interest.
Let's find out more about that, because I've heard so many good things about the 15-year mortgage, and so we have a few questions of our own. And the listeners, if you have a question as well, the number is 622-9622. Bob Kennedy is your host. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, clouds and some sunshine with a brief shower or two around, the high between 75 and 79. Tonight, partly cloudy skies. There can be a shower along the coast during the evening hours, the low 58 in a few inland spots, 66 along the coast. More sun than clouds tomorrow, but again, there can be a shower or two right at the coast, the high 76 to 80. And on Thursday, sunny to partly cloudy, high 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Let's face it, nowadays it can be hard to find American-made products, and that's something that Cabinet Sales of North Florida is well aware of. That's why they're an authorized dealer of Wellborn Cabinetry, family-owned and American-made since 1961. Cabinet Sales of North Florida is your answer for complete turnkey kitchen remodels and whole house cabinetry. Their cabinets are finished with solvent-based enamels for a long-lasting finish that's second to none. Available in an incredible selection of door styles and colors to choose from to turn your dream kitchen into a reality. In-house design and drawing services are available. Come by and see our displays for yourself at the Floors of the Villages, 3935 County Road 216 in Oxford, or Exquisite Design Kitchen and Bath in Bellevue, right across the street from the Bellevue Library. So whether you're looking for bookcases, kitchen, bath, or outdoor kitchen, Cabinet Sales of North Florida is your one-stop source of quality cabinets. For a free estimate, call 352-427-2647. That's 352-427-2647. Cabinet Sales of North Florida.
All right, let's return Berkshire Hathaway Home Team Realty with Bob Kennedy. Bob Kennedy is here. The number is 622-9622. All right, the 15-year mortgage. My first question is, do you have to set this up in the beginning, or can you have a 30-year mortgage and then just double pay?
You can do that. You can set it up where you're going to have, you just make an extra payment each month. Okay. And you have to be a little, disciplined to do that. Or obviously banks are making 15-year loans. The difference is a lot of, especially first-time home buyers, they don't have the down pay. If you're going to do a 15-year mortgage, you pretty much have to put down 20%. In most cases, sometimes 10. But the most first-time home buyers are going through an FHA program, a USDA program, some kind of a modified down payment where they're getting in with 3.5% down, 0% down, 5% down. Those are all 30-year programs.
Okay.
So if you're a buy-up home buyer, or you're really into like a Dave Ramsey or some of these financial people that say don't buy a house until you can do a 15-year mortgage and put more money down, hey, more power to you.
And you do have a phone call, Bob. Good morning. Thank you for calling and for hanging in there a little bit. You're on the air now with Bob Kennedy.
Yeah. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
If I would hire you to handle a rental for me and make sure that I have renters in there and they're checked out and everything else, would it be in the contract that I signed with you that in case for some reason we can't, let's say somebody has to leave and you cannot find a new renter, would I be guaranteed still a monthly rental fee?
Would you be charged a rental fee without a tenant?
Would I would be rewarded with one without having anybody live there?
I don't think so.
Okay, in other words, you're not guaranteeing me.
No, we're not signing the lease. We're managing the property.
Okay, but you're not guaranteeing renters.
No. Why? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
I would too.
I'm letting you do all the renting for me, and I live out of town and everything else, and let's say one of the renters for some reason has to leave or whatever and breaks the contract and the place is vacant, you're not involved in finding new renters or anything.
We absolutely do find the new renters, but you only, we don't guarantee the payment. We only can find you the tenant.
Okay, so if the place is vacant, I'm responsible for the loss of money then?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Gosh, if you somehow could guarantee that, you'd have everybody knocking on your door.
Yeah, man. Wow, that'd be a great gig, wouldn't it?
Wow. But I think what he was asking, well, I know what he was asking, and I think that we understood it eventually. But I thought what he was asking was, do you help find a tenant once the place is vacant?
Yeah, we'll always do that. But, you know, you can only, you know, like we talked about, it's a business.
Yeah.
If, you know, you're going to lose very few tenants if you do your screening properly.
How do you calculate rent? When do you base the rent on the mortgage you're paying?
You base the rent on fair market value based on other rentals in the area.
Okay.
So one of the things that you would look at as in an investment property is, hey, if I put this much money into a property and my carrying costs are X, what's my reasonable rate of return based on Y rental coming in?
Right.
So you always want to have enough money there that makes it worthwhile. It makes it less. Why not make a decent return? Otherwise, why put that money at risk? You could put into a CD.
Right.
Do you also sell whole apartment buildings?
We do some of that. We don't do a lot of it, just because most of our work is single family homes. I've done it more in the past than I do currently, but yeah, we can do that.
Getting back to mortgages in general, is a credit union preferable to a bank when you go for the mortgage?
Credit unions are sometimes they'll offer programs to their members that aren't the same as regular banks. One of the reasons they do a lot of what's called portfolio lending, where they're not selling their loans in the secondary market like most lenders do. So their guidelines can be a little bit different. Like they don't have, for instance, probably the most popular loan around here is the FHA loan, because you could get in with 3.5% down.
Okay.
But of course, you have to follow a lot of federal guidelines for that loan, regardless of who the lender is. But some credit unions can do a similar product, but they're not selling that. They're keeping it in-house, and that'll give you a little bit of leeway as the borrower.
As a home, okay, going back to investment property, you're going to buy a house, and you want to make money from it. Talk about this option, the rent-to-own option. You're the owner, and you eventually want to sell it, but you're going to sell it to somebody who's renting it first. Is that smart, or is that a risky idea?
In my opinion, and anybody that I've ever talked to will tell you this is my opinion, rent-to-own is a bad setup
For
everybody.
For everybody.
Yeah, because if number one, the seller, the owner of the property, is locked into that option, because basically what it is an option. So they're locked into that price. So if the housing market goes way up, then there's nothing that the seller can do. They're going to have to take that price. And the tenant, number one, they don't have to perform on that, and there may be a situation where they can't perform on that. Maybe their credit didn't get repaired enough to make that. There's a lot of moving parts in a rent-to-own situation, and I highly recommend people stay away from it.
Well, there was there were homes in Marion Oaks, and people bought lots, and then they built their own homes, and then 10 years down the road, a school was built down there. Do you have any knowledge as to what might be constructed? Because those people that built those homes and lived there didn't realize the school was going up in that property. And now they ended up selling because the school is butted right up against their homes.
Well, being next to a school usually isn't a bad place to have a home. But if you look at a master plan and you see if it's commercial or residential zoned, you have a pretty good idea of what's coming down the pike.
Okay.
And Bob, you have another phone call. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air with Bob Kennedy.
Good morning.
Oh, they bailed down. Okay. The phone number is 622-9622 if you'd like to speak to Bob and ask your questions. Maybe investing is something that you are considering. Can you do numbers for me? I don't mean to throw you a curve, but in the 15 versus 30-year mortgage options, I'm thinking 15 means you're paying just as much twice as often, or twice as much as often, something like that. Is that accurate, or does it really not work out that way?
Your payments are on based on rates today. The 15-year mortgage is much closer to a 30-year mortgage than you would think.
Oh, really?
Yes. So all you have to do is run a simple mortgage calculator and see the difference between the two. But it really makes a compelling case for a 15-year note.
Is a 15-year mortgage the least amount of years that you can get, and is a 30-year mortgage the most amount of years you can get?
I don't think they're doing anything over 30. They were during the boom, which was probably another signal that the world was coming to an end as we do it in real estate. But they were doing, stay away from anything like an interest-only loan or the old negative amortization loans. I mean,
those were scary.
For a home buyer, for a homeowner, those things you don't want. Now, understand that a 30-year mortgage is still the gold standard of home ownership. Right. And for a lot of people, that will make more sense than a 15-year mortgage, period, for a lot of reasons. They may not be think they're going to be in the area that long. They may want to get the bigger tax deduction that goes with it. Yeah. But if you're based in the community and you don't think you're going to be leaving wherever it is that you live in the near future, and you can build that equity you can build the equity much, much faster. Run the numbers, and it's crazy when you look at them.
I'm not trying to be an on-air psychic or anything like this, but there's got to be somebody out there right now that is renting, that is listening really intently. And wouldn't that be a great Christmas gift to tell your wife, hey, look, I've spoken to a realtor. I had them do all the background checks and everything necessary to make sure we qualify, and we do. Merry Christmas. We're going to start looking for houses, 1st of January or something like that. Typically, when you hear stories about people who bought a house, you do hear these amazing stories. Guess what? I'm paying more for less for my mortgage than I was for my rent. You hear a lot of stories like that. You do. And based on the rents today, if you look even in Marion County, the rental rates are as high as they possibly could be right now, because there's a shortage of inventory. And a lot of people that have been on the sidelines, they just didn't want to buy. Some of them can't buy. Some of them, had lost their homes or whatever. But a lot of people have been sitting on the sidelines saying, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? It's still a great investment to own a home. Absolutely.
For average people like us, it's still going to be one of the best money makers you'll have in your lifetime.
So if that's you, we're almost out of time, Robin, but if that's you listening and you really are thinking about buying a house, get in touch with Bob. Sit down with him and figure out how you're going to make this happen, and then tell your wife, guess what we're going to do? What do we do? Call you? Or
yeah, call me. But you know what? It's probably better if you come together.
I was just trying to give somebody a way to surprise somebody.
It's a wonderful gift, but we don't want violence in the office.
There you go.
Well, you're not going to pick out the house. You're just going to do the what do you call the
preliminary?
The credit check. Yeah, I guess
the pre-qual.
Yeah, the pre. Oh, thank you. So what's your number, Bob?
The office number is 622-9700.
And you have a wonderful website. Tell us what that is.
Berkshire Hathaway HomeTeam.com. BHHS HomeTeam.com.
Okay. And actually, Robin makes it easy by putting it on our guest list. So if you go to today's date, you'll see Bob's name and Berkshire Hathaway's name. And also, you can always call us. We'll be glad to tell you. Plus, you have a Facebook page.
Yes.
Same thing, but Facebook.
It's wonderful. I like the Facebook page.
Facebook page gives you a lot of great info, a lot of good blog articles about financing, about different mortgage options, things to look for, the decisions to make before you start the home buying process. Lots of good info.
It is one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. It's scary, but take that first step, and next year at this time, you'll be celebrating Thanksgiving and Christmas in your own home.
That's right.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The Homeland Security Secretary defending the president's executive actions on immigration, which would shield millions of illegals from deportation, saying it would begin to fix the system.
Promote border security for the future and to send a strong message that our borders are not